What's up, sports fans? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel, and it's time to continue my 2023 college football predictions for the 2023 college football season. Up next, it's the Washington Huskies, a team that had a really good season last year, had a great year, going 11-2 overall in 2022. And this is a team that, almost made it to the Pac-12 championship and also had a chance to maybe make the college football playoff. They were one of those Pac-12 contenders that could have possibly made it in last year. Looking at this Washington team this year, they do have a lot of production coming back, probably the most returning production in the Pac-12 conference. Michael Penix coming back at quarterback. How good is he going to be? Potentially a top 10 quarterback and obviously a Heisman Trophy contender perhaps. Washington's got plenty of weapons on both sides of the football, especially on the defense. The defense is absolutely loaded. They're going to be really good on that side of the football this year. And this team has a chance to be one of the top offenses and obviously the top defenses in the Pac-12 this year. So they got all that experience. They've been to the college football playoff once in their program, so it's not like the first time they can probably make it in this year. But let's get right to the schedule here for Washington for 2023. Again, coming off an 11-2 record last year in 2022. You look at the schedule, they do play Boise State September the 2nd, Tulsa on the September the 9th, and they also play Michigan State there on the road out of the Big Ten. So they do have a pretty tough non-conference schedule. Of course, Michigan State makes it a lot tougher, but they do have to go through the Pac-12 here. They don't have to play every single Pac-12 team, but they almost have to go through the entire Pac-12 schedule, and they do play are pretty tough teams out of the Pac-12 this year. They got Oregon, USC, and Utah, and Oregon State. I mean, these were like pretty much the top four teams last year in the Pac-12, including Washington in that conversation. But let's get right to the schedule and let's go game by game now and give you an official prediction for this Washington team. So they'll start things off with Boise State here on September 2nd. Pretty good team out of the Mountain West. They're a pretty good non-conference team every single year, and obviously a good group of five team. But Washington does have the experience in this game, and they also have, home field advantage in this one. I'm going to go with Washington here to start off 2023 with a win over Boise State. And I also got them taking care of business against Tulsa here on September 9th, and I think Washington starts out 2-0. Next game is on the road at Michigan State. Big non-conference matchup here in week number 3. Game was obviously not even that close last year. Washington dominated the game. Washington does have experience more than Michigan State in this ball game. Michigan State, though, has home field advantage. And when I did my projections for both of these teams, I pretty much call this one a 50-50 game, and it's still a pretty tough game to call for me here on September the 16th. Michigan State, with them being at home and obviously home field advantage, it really favors them. It's a tough one to call. I'm going to go with home field advantage in this game. I'm going to say that Michigan State knocks off Washington here and gets the revenge on them. It will be a close game, though, really closer than it was last year, and I got Washington losing their first game of the season here on the road at Michigan State. So I got them falling to 2-1. Cal here, September the 23rd is next after Michigan State. So you're coming off a loss to Michigan State here in week 3. Now you're back at home after a loss. Could this be kind of like a game that Washington starts to collapse a little bit? I don't think that it's going to be the case. I think Washington does beat Cal here big in this one. I don't expect Cal to be all that good this year, so I got Washington getting a redemption win over Cal here, and I got them improving to 3-1. Arizona on the road after that on September the 30th. This is a pretty sneaky good Arizona team. I'm not really high on them this year, though. I know they were really good last year, going 5-7, but I just don't know how good this team is going to be against the Pac-12 conference. I mean, I know the Pac-12 is obviously a hard conference to predict every single year, but I think Washington is definitely the favorite here in this one. They also have the experience, and with that being said, I'm going to go with Washington here with a road win over Arizona here on September the 30th. So I got Washington now improving to 4-1. Next game is against Oregon here at home on October the 14th, and it comes at a really good time. They get a bye week before playing this game. Oregon's got the offense. They're going to be pretty good this year. Bo Nix is coming back at quarterback. They got some really talented running backs. Washington's going to be really ready for this one, though. I mean, you look at last year's matchup, Washington was able to come out on top. I mean, Oregon, obviously, very disappointed. They're looking for revenge in this game. But this is a road game for Oregon. It's obviously going to be a very tough place to play. This is a rival game. You never know what can happen. With it being a rival game and also it's a 50-50 game for me, I'm going to say that home field advantage does favor Washington in this one. They also got the experience. And with that being said, I'm going to go with Washington to defeat Oregon here on October the 14th. And I got Washington beating Oregon 2 years in a row. Last year I predicted Oregon to win, but this year I'm picking Washington. So with that being said, I think Washington will now improve to 5-1. Arizona State coming up next on October 21st, a brand new Arizona State team. They're going to have a new head coach this year. I really don't expect this team to be all that good. I don't think they're going to be a Pac-12 contender this upcoming season. But I think Washington wins easily here by maybe 3 scores, maybe a couple touchdowns, because this game is at home. So Washington wins it, and I think they improve to 6-1. Stanford coming up next here on the road, similar to Arizona State. They're going to have a new head coach. They're kind of in a rebuild mode. However, this game is on the road. It's a tough place to play. It won't be an easy one probably for, maybe the first few minutes, but I think Washington will pull away maybe late in the game, and I think Washington does defeat Stanford here on the road on October 28th. So I got Washington improving to 7-1. Then they get into the month of November. The November schedule gets pretty tough for Washington. They do play USC on November the 4th. On the road, Utah, November the 11th, Oregon State on the road as well, and then Washington State to end things out. Let's start with that USC matchup, though. Pretty big game here on November the 4th. This is potentially could be a college game day type game. Both of these teams could be sitting here undefeated, perhaps. But Washington, I do have them one loss already with Michigan State, but they are undefeated in the Pac-12. This could be, a battle for the unbeatens here in the Pac-12 conference. But USC does have home field advantage. Washington does have the experienced team, but I think USC with Caleb Williams coming back and obviously that high-powered offense, I don't think it's going to be quite enough for Washington to pull out the win here on the road at USC. So I got USC knocking off Washington here and giving Washington their second loss. So now I got Washington actually falling to 7-2. Utah after that on November the 11th. This is a pretty good, sneaky good Utah team. Cameron Rising coming back at quarterback. This team has a lot of production coming back. And when it comes to the Pac-12, there's a lot of production coming back for some of these teams this year in the Pac-12. So you're kind of expecting to maybe see a Pac-12 team in the playoff. Utah is one of those contenders, perhaps. This is a pretty much a trap game for Washington, but I think home field advantage does favor them, and obviously the experience favors them. And with that being said, I'm going to go with Washington here to knock off Utah here at home on November the 11th. Oregon State on the road after that on November 18th. People are not really hyped up for this Oregon State team, but I'm really high on this team. I think with all the hype they're getting, I think this team is going to be really good this year. DJ Ogilvy, how good will he be for this Oregon State team? I think it's going to be really questionable. This is a road game for Washington. Obviously, Washington beat Oregon State last year when Oregon State kind of got on a run. But this year, I think Oregon State is looking for revenge on this Washington team, and I think that they get to it. And I think Washington does lose here on the road at Oregon State. It's a tough one to call for me. It is obviously a tough place to play. I'm going to go with Oregon State here to knock off Washington. And now I got Washington falling to 8-3. Then they face Washington State here to end 2023 in rival week here on November 25th. One of my top 5 favorite rivalries in the Pac-12, maybe besides, maybe USC, Utah, UCLA perhaps, but this is going to be a pretty interesting game. Washington State, I think, should be a pretty good team this year. I don't think they're going to be all that bad. I think, Washington State will compete in this game. They don't have the experience, but they're going to be a sneaky good team in the Pac-12 this year. They had a pretty good season last year, so I'm kind of expecting them to be good. Washington, though, with home field advantage, I think it does favor them. I think Washington does pull away in the second half. I'm going to go with the Huskies here to knock off the Cougars in this rival game here against Washington State. And I got Washington finishing 9-3 in 2023. But this is possible. They can go 10-2. Maybe they can beat Michigan State on the road and probably lose to USC and Oregon State both at home. But it would really shock me if this Washington team went 8-4 with a loss to Oregon at home, because they do have home field advantage in this game. But this is definitely a playoff contender. But the schedule, how that sets up. These are tough road games to play against and obviously tough games to call. But 9-3 is my official prediction for this Washington team. Let me guys know what you think about this Washington team. What do you think their record is in 2023? And stay tuned here for more sports content on the Lucas Ross Sports Channel.